Welcome to the Balanced Growth Show live. I always like to do a little bit of a monologue on these live shows before I bring on my guests. And today, I've had a great weekend where my brothers and my son and I were able to have a fantastic time at a place called Deer Valley, Utah, which is in Park City, just south of us, about an hour and a half. I love mountain biking, and many of my posts you'll see me mountain biking with friends or family or with my spouse. And even the book cover of Balanced Growth has has a couple that are mountain biking as they're spending time together. It's just something that I've grown up doing since I was 10, 11 years old, with friends, with my dad, with my uncles, and just really enjoyed it. Now, when I was a kid, it was fun. And, we didn't have to think about this thing called exercise. But I know for a fact that physical health is one of your top priorities. How do I know this? Because I've traveled the country and even spoken internationally about these concepts of priorities and interviewed over 1,000 business owners, and they tell me that physical health is crucial. It's also related to their spiritual health, and it's also related to mental health. Mental health is physical health. It's encapsulated in all of that. It's holistic as we look at these pieces. Now that said, I know a lot of people struggle to make time to exercise, work out, go to the gym, whatever you want to call it. And I want to give you some insights into why I'm still able to do this nearly every single day of my life at age 43, and it's still fun. Because here's the key. On Saturday, we were cruising down Deer Valley. We rode the lifts up and just bombing down these awesome trails, not without injury, but we're all alive. It's still fun because I'm in good physical condition and shape and can do these things. And I plan to do this until I'm 80 years old. Uh, so if you're struggling with physical health, let me give you some advice. We talk all the time. We have this cliche, and it is very cliche argument that if you find something that you love and you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. And I honestly think there's some truth to that. But it's also very cliche because there are things that we don't enjoy doing, but we do them because it is work, right? But if you do enjoy your work, that's helpful. Then you have a passion for it, which I do. So take the same type of approach to an extent. Don't overdo this analogy, but to an extent, think about it in your own exercise. What is it that you love to do? What did you do in high school that you love playing? A lot of us, there are team sports. And maybe it isn't that we can just jump into a league, rec league, and continue playing those team sports. But what is it that you enjoy doing? Even if it's golf, a lot of financial advisors, professionals, business owners, they like golf. So do you walk the course or are you in the cart the whole day? Well, I have to do the cart because, it's got to be fast. Maybe do 9 holes and walk. Maybe do that by yourself. If you're with a friend, I can understand using the cart. But think of things that you enjoy doing, something that's fun. Friends of mine, they really enjoy dancing. My wife and I, we enjoy dancing. And it is a workout when you're dancing for hours on end. It's even a half an hour of high impact. It's very fun. So I know some women, especially, if they enjoy dancing, they will find fitness courses or classes that are basically dance, right? Or they'll do a dance class, which is excellent. So for me, mountain biking is my thing. And so, why is this important? Well, because if once I discovered that mountain biking, it's my jam. I've always loved it, and I'll always love to do it. I have enjoyed soccer as a team sport, volleyball as a team sport, but those team sports are much more difficult to put together, organize, and be a part of for me. If you're able to do that and you're able to find a volleyball club or a soccer team that you can still play like indoor or something during the wintertime, excellent. I've done that in the past as well. It can be helpful. But a lot of times, like these individual sports, running, biking, swimming, it's something that you can do on your own time and you can put it in your schedule. So how does this work? Well, for me, everything is mountain biking, especially in mountain biking season, which is for me when the mud dries up and the snow starts to fall. And maybe this year I'll pick up a snow bike so I can keep it going. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But the reality is, I'm going to make this my thing and continue this as long as I can. And that means that if I can't mountain bike a day, like yesterday, I didn't have enough time to actually get on the bike and go. I had about 20 minutes to exercise. So I went on a run for a couple of miles. All the while, I'm thinking this is going to help me to have better conditioning in the saddle. Okay. I don't enjoy running. I ran after a soccer ball in high school and I ran to do the pole vault. So there were different things I did, to run, but running in and of itself is very much a mind game and I don't have a lot of patience for it. But if I can focus my energy towards this is going to help me to mountain bike and enjoy it and have days like I did at Deer Valley, then it's going to be awesome. The other thing is, cross training with weights. So there's others that are, they're just big weightlifters and they really stress that, and that's fine. It's fantastic. That tends to be their sport, right? And they maybe compete in competitions for bodybuilding competitions. That's awesome. If that's your jam, do it, love it. That's part of your identity. For me, I lift weights and I've researched what can I do to help me have better conditioning for the bike. So I very much do a lot of legs, some upper body, so that I can stay fit on with the handles and as I'm going up the mountain. I'm very much thinking when I'm in the gym, our home gym. Uh, what am I doing to condition myself for this main fun thing that I enjoy doing? Then when I'm in the saddle several times a week and I know it's exercise, I'm still tricking my brain because I love it so much. It's very much a psychological thing, going up the mountain and then jamming back down and having that thrill. So for me, that works. That's just my example. You don't have to love mountain biking. You don't even have to love the outdoors. I really don't care what you're doing, but find something that works. If it's basketball, if it's, futsal, if it is running or swimming, make it fun. The last thing I would say is if you want to be a little competitive, if you want to set some goals and track yourself, then have some end goals to shoot for. The goal doesn't have to be necessarily a race. The goal could be a trip to some place maybe exotic to go experience something. So for myself and this year, I decided I want to do several bike trips. And one was Deer Valley, one was Moab, one is St. George, and may do another one in Colorado. So then as I'm riding every week, even if the rides aren't as fun or maybe aren't as challenging, I'm thinking I'm preparing myself for this trip. Now, if you're super competitive and you want to, race mountain bikes, that's another thing. If you're a runner and you're going to do a half marathon or a full marathon, some of the psychological aspects behind this is, I'm doing 5 miles today, but it's preparing me for this end goal. Have a goal. Have something in mind. A client of mine, Ryan, last year, he was 50 years old and he wanted to do it was a half triathlon. Yeah, it was a half Ironman triathlon. And he busted his nut to get in the saddle several hours a day, run and get the swimming time in. The laps time, I think, were the most difficult. But there's no way that he would have done this all, incrementally by itself because it wasn't really that fun. But having this end goal of completing at age 50 a half Ironman triathlon was huge for him. And he did it. And he did it faster than his estimated time, which was awesome. So even if you're not like competing against everybody, you're just competing against yourself. You're having a goal, an end goal to have a trip someplace exotic. Another example of this quickly was my buddy and I. We went to Costa Rica with our spouses, and we decided that we would go swimming every week to prepare ourselves so that we could surf because it was the middle of the winter in Utah. There's no surfing in Utah. So you've got to go to a swimming pool, and we got into shape, and that was our motivation. And it was fun because when we got to Costa Rica, we were in shape. we could swim, we could surf, we could enjoy the things that we wanted to do. So hopefully those are some tips and some ideas, some physical health hacks to make it fun. The last thing I'm going to say is don't have guilt. A lot of times we think, well, if I'm having fun, then I've got to cover it up. I've got to make it look like it's hard, and otherwise, what's my spouse going to think, or my family, if I'm having fun? You're allowed to have fun. Okay, allow yourself fun. The primary here is that it's physical health. Your heart rate is going, you're lifting weights, you're sweating, whatever it is that you're measuring, you're tracking. Do those hard things, but make it fun. Ignore the guilt. It's really much a mindset thing, and it's very, very healthy. Your body thanks you with the hormones that it sends throughout your body saying, thank you for doing this. It's helping me. You're helping to keep me alive. And I know that it works, and the payoff is awesome. You will have Deer Valley days. You will have Costa Rica experiences throughout your life because your body is telling you to do so. Thank you for following us here today. I've got some great guests who, actually one in particular who's here today, who is just an awesome person. And we just got to know each other a little bit in the pre-show, who has a lot to say about this topic, actually. And this was very great timing. So I'm gonna welcome Brian to the show here in just a second. I'm gonna read a little bit about who he is and introduce him and then let him on. Brian is a business coach, very athletic. He transitioned to business owner coaching side for just a little while back. He focuses on mental fitness, strength, positive thinking, and skill development to help business owners and franchisees. He also owns a printing franchise, which is awesome. So he kind of walks the walk and talks the talk here, and I'm excited to have him in studio. Brian, welcome to the Balanced Growth Show.
Cool. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You'll have to tell us a little bit more about what you do. I give you a really brief background, but tell us a little about how you help business owners and franchisees with their
Yeah.
mental and physical fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. So it stems from my time as an athlete as well, and I've coached youth sports for a while too. And so I really wanted to figure out how can I bring that mental fitness, that mental toughness to the professional world. And so that's what I started exploring. And so that's my focus. I focus with small business owners, franchisees, and how do we get you to lay that foundation of mental strength to help with the struggles that come with running a business. And then we take that the next further. Once you've got that foundation, now we can start talking about how do you grow from being an operator of your business and being the CEO of the company. And that's the transition that we love playing with.
Oh, it's so great. That is very much needed. I have a little analogy we won't get into, but I think essentially the summary of what I think is there's a lot of business owners who are out there on the field still, and they're players, and they consider themselves business owners, but they're not really structuring their business that way. So I think what you do really helps them to get off the field and either be in the coaching suite or in the owner's box, which is up as you're watching the game, where they're really just helping to make sure that everything's running smoothly. They're not on the field. So I love that. And I think the franchise model, maybe speak to that for just a second, since you are a franchise owner, that franchise model really does teach you some of those skills, doesn't it?
So it depends on the franchise, and some franchises have this nailed, solid, awesome program, and others don't. And I found that again, not all, but frequently the conversation is along the lines of, yeah, I know how to start my business, but I don't know how to scale my business. And the answer I get is just do more and you'll be more successful. And at
Yeah.
some point, the franchisee is the capacity. They can't do any more,
Right.
but they've only been trained on how to operate the business. So this is kind of that training on how do I transition from making the widget or serving the client directly and then growing the team so there's a team that can help with that as well.
Oh, I love it. That's great. And it fits in line with the balanced growth method that we talk about. And It's coming out, Balanced
Yeah,
Growth book here later this year. So I'm excited to share that with you. But you've got a question, you've got a
I
burning
do.
question. You're helping business owners, you're helping them to grow and scale. Yet at the same time, you're a business owner, you have struggles with balance. And don't we all? Welcome to the club. But tell us a little bit about what is your main burning question for the
Yeah,
show
so
today?
I'm kind of curious as to your perspective on this. I have some of my ideas, but it's kind of a chicken and an egg situation here. What comes first? Do you kind of sacrifice growth in the business, work, and income to spend time with your family? Or do you take away time from the family to make the business successful first so you can help provide for the family? Ideally, right, it's 50-50 ish, but in essence, the scale's got to tip to one side or the other first. And so, kind of, what's your feeling? Where should it tip first?
I think, and you're a mindset guy, I really just think it's mindset. And I'll tell you why. Tell you why. So many business owners who we've worked with and interviewed for Achieving Balance, the first book we wrote, and now Balanced Growth, and for my podcast, they had this idea in their mind that they had to just sacrifice everything, their health, their family, their personal life, to grow a business if they were an entrepreneur, right? They have this startup idea. So they thought, well, whatever it is, they had this mindset that they have to just sacrifice everything. And after 5 years or so, that they would get back into, life. And so, see you later, honey. Goodbye, kids. And quite honestly, we see this. It's not one industry. I started off working in the financial, planning industry, but I've seen this in so many industries. Summer sales. I actually had a lot of clients as a financial advisor in summer sales, and it was very hard on the relationship. I saw this in tech industry, legal, really, really bad. But even academia, I got into academia a while back to get my PhD, and I thought, well, maybe I'll do this on the side and run my business, full time. And that was not what they wanted. They want full commitment. They want tenure, right? It comes from like they want your time. And most places I've worked, at least at the ground up, they're saying, hey, we want you for 5 years to not think about anything else. It's the wrong mentality, totally wrong mentality. Because like the first job I had, I was burnt out. And I made a decision after a couple of years in, like, I'm not working nights anymore. I'm not working weekends. You guys want me working nights and weekends. The business model was old mindset of work really hard and then relax a little bit. The problem is, here is the major problem. It may work. Like you may, just hustle for 5 years, put everything you give it, and your wife is super supportive. You may not see your kids as much, and your health is going to struggle. And after 5 years, maybe you start repairing those relationships, and your wife responds or your spouse responds. Your kids are like, okay, dad's back. Some things may not bounce back. So the struggle is you may have caused irreparable damage to your relationship. You may have caused irreparable damage to your health, so to speak. And I call that being stuck in the workaholic trap. So there's some damage there. And ongoing, the residual is you may have created a habit that's very now difficult to get out of because it's the mindset, right? Now on the other end, let's just flesh this out on the other side. The other side is, well, you just decide, you're going to go all in with your family and you're going to grow the business. But I think the assumption, or grow the business slowly. The assumption is you're going to grow the business slowly. If you're super productive in that time frame that you give to your work, and if you know how to market really well, which quite honestly, and you know this, you work with business owners, most business owners don't know how to market very well. They were not taught marketing. They were taught the specific skill that they're trying to market, right? It's how this works. So if you know how to spend the most important time doing the most important things and market that service to your potential clients, I honestly would rather err on that side. Because here's what happens if you err on that side. Maybe you mess up on the market. Maybe you give less time than you maybe should to the business. So then you're sacrificing which side of the equation, right? You're sacrificing on the work, and that thing can bounce back faster. You can maybe put in some extra time, a couple of weeks if you really have to, right? You can do those things, and I'm not saying be a workaholic, but I mean you can sacrifice a little bit extra of those time frames, especially for the if the majority of the time your family knows you're there, your body says, hey, you're taking good care of me. There are short periods of time where you can maybe have less sleep or work harder, longer hours, and be away from the family. It's possible, and I really am a firm believer of times and seasons. But for me, I'd much rather err on the side of I'm going to be with my family, take care of my health. Because if I don't take care of those things, I may have a great business in 5 years and none of the things I really value most. Make sense?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So, but that's
I
me.
love that.
Everybody has to decide. I work 25, 28 hours a week. I take 16 weeks off a year. And the business, because we've been able to figure out how to be super productive and market this really well, the business is still growing 2, 3 times every single year, despite down years, despite crazy economies, despite what's going on. We're able to move this forward and grow while keeping that balance. Now, I want to address one other topic to answer this question, and that is, so then still, Travis, like, where do you start? If you're already in business and you're struggling because you're working too much, I actually say start with where all your priorities are, write them all down, and know where you are in each of your area of life. Then take the career area and ask yourself, how many hours do you actually want to work here? It's Parkinson's law. We take as much time as we decide. Again, mindset. We take as much time as we decide it's going to take. We put off that paper in college. We decide we're going to diet, 3 weeks before a race. Like, it's just all these things. We delay because we know in our mind we have so much time. It's Parkinson's law. How much time do you really want to spend at work? You decide. You're the business owner. You put that down on paper. Then you go about making changes to be super productive first. Then you free up the time that you have by being more productive in your work, and you build it into your other priorities. So the mindset's important, of knowing, hey, this is more, these top priorities are more important in my life. And yes, I've got to do work. You got to pay the bills to provide for them. But how can you make that transition over time with being more productive first and then reinvesting into the other areas that will keep your balance long term? So short-term idea, long-term consequence. Any follow-up or thoughts or questions on that you want to mention, Brian?
Yeah, no, I love it. So a couple years ago, we went through and finally wrote down core values for the business, right? And should you have, yes, we all know we need core values for the business. The exercise of writing them down is much more difficult than saying, I got them upstairs. But what I did was, when I put those together, I realized that there were 3 things that were more important. And COVID gave me the third one, honestly. But I always said faith and family were more important than anything else. I added fitness in there as well,
Nice.
right? And by fitness, I mean taking care of yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean 10,000 steps or, eat 1,800 calories or whatever the numbers are. But it is, are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating correct, right? Are you taking care of yourself? So the idea here is, I'm not telling you what to believe in, but believe in something bigger than yourself, right? Like, explain the unexplainable. Family isn't necessarily blood relations, but it's those tight relationships that you have with other people. And take care of yourself. So that way you can be a complete person before you show up to work. Because if you're not a complete person ready to go, we're not going to get everything out of you that we could. So we need to take care of you first, the person, and then we'll worry about you, the employee, second.
Love it.
And that's just been, and honestly, family comes first, comes true when it's difficult, right? When it's easy, of course, family comes first on, fill in the blank, on Saturday.
Right. On the weekend.
Right? Like, of course, family comes first on the weekends. But it's, oh no, my daughter has this, the grandparents have this, the whatever it is. Like, yeah, no, I say family comes first. That has to be true all the time, not just when it's convenient.
Yeah.
So you know that there is. I love the way you explained it, of kind of the benefits of putting family first. Because at the end of the day, that's what's there. So if the business goes sideways, you still want the family there to be there for you. That's great.
Covey floats this idea around, on your deathbed. Nobody says that. Gee, I wish I really would have worked more. But we get
Right.
stuck in that habit of thinking I've got to work more because work more means more money. And it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true. Being more productive is. And that's where I teach productivity, and I teach, that as part of your time management. The other thing that I'd like to mention, kind of go back to this, is, you're saying family first, which is so true. Like, in a generalized form, but how much time do you spend with your family? How much time do you spend with your spouse? How much time do you actually spend to work on your physical health, including sleeping and eating and just general, a good hygiene, right? Those things are physical health. And I throw that in there because a lot of times people are like, I don't spend a lot on my physical health. I'm like, well, your brain shuts you down every night or else you die. It's just a fact. So sleep is huge, and you've got to eat. And what are you fueling your body, and what are you doing to work it out and stay fit? Those kinds of things that are, again, very helpful for your mind and your brain to operate. Because as you said, if you don't have those things and you show up, you're going to be a less, effective version of yourself. But I would say this: the other thing I would throw in there too, Brian, is boundaries. Because when you're at work, unless it's an emergency, you're at work, right? That's when you need to be productive. So when I help people be productive, it's like, well, I'm getting personal things that interrupt my day, and I'm doing these and the other. So you're not really working. You're going to work and you're wasting time, or you're looking at social media too much, or you're answering emails that you don't even need to answer. You're not being very productive with your time. That's what I find a lot of the times, is that they don't have the boundaries built in to know, no, this is when I'm focused, because I have to be focused so I can do my work, so that I can come home and then I can focus on being home, right? So being present is a huge part of this. And I know that's not what you were getting after. You were talking, in general, and I just wanted to bring that up, that boundaries are crucial. They're crucial for us so that
No,
we
but
can keep that.
that's fair, right?
Yeah.
Because my personal email address, that's not open on the laptop,
Yeah.
right? When I'm
Yeah.
working, that's phone only and really not checked during the day. And my wife and I have kind of a system in place where if it's a text message, you respond to it when you get the chance to respond to it.
Yeah.
If it's a phone call, I need you to answer the phone now. I really don't care what you're doing. And the, it's almost never that a phone call comes through. It's almost always a text message.
Right.
But when the phone
You
rings,
answer.
you excuse yourself and whatever it is,
Yeah.
because that is the emergency,
Yeah.
right? But right, understanding where your focus is, and one thing that my wife, our kids are still young, but we've made it very clear that on the rare exceptions when there's an event, but we're home for dinner every night, right? Like if I still have work to do, I'm home. We'll have dinner, put the kids to bed, then I do more work.
Yeah.
Right? It's not work late and get home at 8 o'clock to tuck the kids in bed. No, you're home for dinner, eat dinner together, go through the bedtime procedure. My wife can understand that life happens. You're busy. You've got to put more time in. The 5-year-old,
Doesn't.
I don't understand. Why is daddy not home for dinner? What did I do wrong? Right. And so we're very, very careful
Yeah.
about making sure we're home. Again, if there's a business meeting or a business event, that's a rare thing.
Yeah.
So sure. And they understand that, but it's not consistent at all. And then we make sure that my wife and I take time for each other as well.
Good. And those are boundaries. They're boundaries on the other end, that those are those priorities that will keep you balanced, your relationship with your wife, your family, your own physical, spiritual, mental health. Those things, those are the top priorities I see. And it's not, well, I'll make time for those someday. No, make time for them now, create boundaries, be super productive, and then figure out how you can be more and more productive and work less and less. It's not, I'm going to be productive so that I can work more and, you know, uh, keep, being addicted to my work. No, it's not it at all. Set up businesses, set up structures that inside those businesses that you have that allow you to be off the playing field. It allows you to be on the sidelines and watching the growth. Hey, Brian, I think we've got a lot in common here, and I really appreciate you being on the show and asking this really good question. It's a chicken before the egg question I get asked actually quite a lot. Like, what do I do? And I hope that listeners have been able to take some of these ideas and thoughts and put them into action. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being willing to give us your time and of your expertise.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
If you've enjoyed this, please share this up. We've enjoyed being with you today. I've talked a little bit about physical health, how to make it fun, and how to really create a plan for yourself so that you can be successful at it. And I've had Brian on the show to ask a question about chicken before the egg. What do you do? How do you grow a business while also keeping these priorities? And we've had a great discussion on that. And I want to leave you with the thought. I know this gets floated around just as much as Covey quotes, but this idea of Steve Jobs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just search up Steve Jobs' deathbed. He's a man who has done incredible things for the world of business and has changed our world as we know it with technology, and has really helped to see Apple through hard times and come back to help it. So I appreciate his words of wisdom, but I also read between the lines. If what we see is true in that statement, and I'm not going to read the whole statement because you've probably seen it. It's floated around the internet a little bit. The validity of that, I don't know. Some people say it's fake. Some people say it's real. And if you've watched the movie, maybe get a better understanding. But at the end of his life, even though all that he did with business was incredible, he was not surrounded by family. He was not surrounded by loved ones as he was taking his last breath. And I think that is a very interesting idea to know that, man, look at all the things that you've done in your world, in business. Is that it? Or what are your highest priorities in life? Are those people going to be there for you throughout your life? Are you going to be there for them? Quite honestly, that's what usually it boils down to. So that's the thought I want to leave with you at the end of this live today. Thank you, everyone, for being here at another episode of the Balance Growth Show. Remember, live life